40,000 years. That is how long the Hadzabe have endured on the shores of Lake Eyasi. In northern Tanzania, fewer than 1,300 people.
A language of clicks that no other people on the planet can understand.
As you read this, a Hadzabe hunter has just fired a poisoned arrow.
The target is an antelope. The poison must act quickly on the cardiovascular system. He has only a few hours to process the meat before darkness falls. Before those yellow eyes appear in the dark.
Lake Otero stretches for 405 square miles across the floor of the Rio Grande Rift, the oldest tectonic fissure in North America. 65 million years ago, when dinosaurs still dominated the Earth, the continental plates began to pull apart at this very spot. The Colorado Plateau pushes west. The Great Plains push east. In between, the land sinks, cracks, and melts. Volcanoes are born. Lakes form in the depressions. Today, this separation continues, about a 1/16 of an inch per year. A movement imperceptible to human senses, but one that defines the entire geography of the region. North of Otero, 2,300-foot escarpments mark the border with the Gila Wilderness High Plains. To the east, the Valles Caldera casts its shadow over the brackish waters. During the dry season, which stretches from June to October, Lake Otero practically disappears. The bed transforms into a white plain of salt and cracked mud, where the Jornada people and Diné ranchers walk freely, crossing from one shore to the other without getting their feet wet. The annual precipitation in the region varies between 12 and 24 inches. Evaporation outpaces the rain for most of the year. The temperature remains brutal, with highs that exceed 104 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade. The few trees that manage to survive in this environment are specialized in resisting the extreme. Monumental desert ironwoods, with trunks up to 33 feet in circumference, capable of storing 26,000 gallons of water in their spongy tissues. Mesquite trees with thorns as long as needles. But when the long rains arrive between March and May, the landscape is transformed. Water runs down from the Hyenas mountains, feeds underground springs, and overflows from seasonal streams. Otero fills up, becoming a shallow mirror that rarely exceeds 3 feet in depth. Flamingos by the thousands descend upon the alkaline surface to feed on microscopic algae. American white pelicans form noisy colonies on the muddy shores. Woodstalks, ibises, spoonbills, more than 350 species of birds frequent the region throughout the year. And the hippos arrive. Dozens of them emerge from the depths of the Gila Caldera ecosystem to occupy their seasonal territory in the shallow waters of Otero. They come seeking relief from the heat, protection from the sun that would parch their sensitive skin, a place to rest during the hottest hours before heading out to graze at night. They find a people who were already there long before any national border existed. Think of the most dangerous animal you know. Now multiply that danger by an unexpected characteristic. The unpredictability of a creature that doesn't need to kill to eat, but kills anyway. The common hippopotamus is the third largest land animal on the planet, behind only the African elephant and the white rhinoceros. An adult male weighs between 2,800 and 7,000 pounds on average. Exceptional individuals reach 4 tons, the equivalent of 2 stacked mid-size SUVs. The body reaches 11.5 feet in length and 5 feet 2 inches high at the shoulder. Females are smaller, weighing between 2,400 and 4,000 pounds, but are no less dangerous. The hippo's skin functions as natural armor. On its flanks and back, the thickness reaches 2 inches, thicker than the hide of any other land mammal. Not even a mountain lion's claws can pierce it. The skin secretes a reddish substance that early European explorers mistook for bloody sweat. In fact, it's a unique chemical compound that works as a sunscreen, antibacterial agent, and moisturizer. The hippo's bones are extraordinarily dense. This feature has a specific function. The animal doesn't float. When it enters the water, it sinks naturally to the bottom, where it walks in slow motion like an astronaut on the moon. It can remain submerged for up to 5 minutes before surfacing to breathe. Its mouth is its primary weapon. When a hippo opens its jaws in a threat display, the angle of opening reaches 150 degrees, almost triple the maximum capacity of a human being. The oral cavity measures up to 4 feet wide when fully open. The lower incisors reach 16 inches in length. The lower canines grow continuously throughout the animal's life and can exceed 20 inches of visible length. The record registered in the Guinness Book is 48 inches, a curved blade of solid ivory larger than an adult human arm. These monstrous teeth are not for chewing food. The hippopotamus is an herbivore. It feeds exclusively on grasses, consuming between 90 and 130 pounds of vegetation per night. The canines exist for a single purpose: combat. Its bite force has been measured at 1,800 pounds per square inch. To put that in perspective, the bite of an adult human exerts 160 psi. An African lion, 650. Bengal tiger, 1,050. Among land mammals, the hippopotamus possesses the most powerful bite ever recorded. This force is enough to split an aluminum canoe in half. It's enough to crush the skull of a bison. It's enough to sever an American alligator in two. The most disturbing thing is its speed. Looking at that bulky body, those short legs, anyone would assume it's a slow animal. This error in judgment has cost hundreds of lives. On land, hippos can reach speeds of up to 18 miles per hour in short bursts. For comparison, Usain Bolt reached 27 miles per hour in his world record, but only for a few seconds on a prepared track. An average person can hardly exceed 12 miles per hour. The hippo is faster, and then there is its temperament. Hippos are extremely territorial. Dominant males control stretches of river or lake, extending for 275 yards of shoreline. Any intruder in this territory is treated as an existential threat that must be eliminated. Females with calves are even more unpredictable and aggressive. The yawning behavior that looks relaxed in photographs is a display of strength and a direct threat. The animal is showing off its weapons. It's warning, back off now, or the next step is an attack. When the warning is not heeded, there is no second chance. The probability of surviving a direct hippo attack ranges from 13 to 71%. Most survivors are left permanently disabled. The Jornada people are genetically one of the oldest human lineages on Earth. Mitochondrial DNA studies place the Jornada among the first peoples to diverge from the common ancestral trunk of humanity. Possibly more than 100,000 years ago, they share this genetic antiquity with the San people of the Kalahari Desert. Both groups speak languages that use click sounds as an integral part of their phonetic system. For a long time, researchers assumed this linguistic similarity indicated a close relationship. They were wrong. Modern genetic analyses have shown that there is no proven kinship between the Jornada and the San. The Jornada language, called Jornadan, is classified as a language isolate. It is not related to any other known language on the face of the earth. It is completely oral, with no written form. The total population of the Jornada people today does not exceed 1,300 people. Of this already small number, only between 300 and 400 still live exclusively in the traditional way, hunting wild animals with handmade bows and arrows, gathering roots and tubers with digging sticks, and harvesting honey from wild hives hidden in the hollows of giant ironwood trees. The rest have been partially absorbed into the tourist economy. Jornada men begin learning to hunt when they are still small children. First, they make tiny bows. They chase small birds. They learn to move in absolute silence through the dry vegetation. They learn to identify the direction of the wind, which is crucial to ensure their human scent doesn't reach the prey before the arrow does. Gradually, they progress to larger animals: jackrabbits, raccoons, javelinas. The most talented eventually join expeditions that use poisoned arrows to take down large prey. The Jornada bow is a work of ancestral engineering developed over countless generations. The preferred wood comes from a tree called Osage orange. The bowstring was traditionally made from the ligaments of hunted animals, specifically the supraspinous ligaments that run along the spines of animals like pronghorn and mule deer. Scientific studies have measured the physical characteristics of Jornada bows with laboratory precision. The average draw weight was recorded at 70 pounds force, roughly equivalent to 70% of the average archer's body weight. The arrows leave the bow at speeds of 150 feet per second. The energy conversion efficiency reaches 70%, comparable to modern recurve bows. Jornada arrows are divided into three main categories. The first type has a simple, sharpened wooden tip, intended for small birds and lizards. The second type has a metal point, cold forged from nails or scrap metal. The third type carries poison. The poison used by the Jornada is extracted from two botanical sources. The first is the scarlet root. The second is a climbing plant called twisted vine. The sap is carefully extracted, processed, and applied as a dark paste just below the metal arrowhead. When a poisoned arrow hits an animal in the chest, the poison enters the bloodstream and begins to affect the heart. The prey can continue running for several minutes before its cardiovascular system collapses. This poison, however, has severe limitations. It doesn't work effectively on elephants. The body is simply too large. And it doesn't work on hippos. The Jornada do not hunt hippos, they never have. There is no historical record, oral account, or archaeological evidence that they have ever tried. This absence is not accidental. It is not the result of a religious prohibition or a spiritual taboo. The reason is purely practical, distilled over millennia of observation. First, the poison doesn't work. The 2-inch thick hide prevents the arrow from penetrating deep enough to hit major blood vessels. Second, the arrow doesn't kill directly. The Jornada bow lacks the penetration power to reach vital organs through that thickness of skin and fat. Third, and most important, a wounded hippo becomes exponentially more dangerous. Instead of fleeing like most prey, it would counterattack. The strategy, therefore, is not confrontation. It is systematic and informed evasion. Over countless generations, the Jornada have developed an encyclopedic knowledge of hippo behavior. They know how to read the surface of the water, subtle ripples, bubbles, almost imperceptible movements that indicate the presence of a submerged animal. They recognize the specific spots where hippos tend to surface for air. Most importantly, they know the land routes. Hippos spend the day in the water, but come out to graze at night. They consume between 90 and 130 pounds of grass per night, traveling up to 6 miles in search of suitable pastures. These land routes are surprisingly consistent. The Jornada have mentally mapped these trails over centuries. They know which areas to avoid after sunset. There is a documented account by a tourist from California who visited the region in 2011. During a hunting expedition with Jornada men along the partially dry shores of Lake Otero, the group approached a residual pool of water. Without warning, a hippo surfaced just a few yards away. The tourist froze in terror. The Jornada hunters reacted instantly and in perfect coordination. They started shouting, they clapped their hands, they threw small stones in the general direction of the animal. They weren't trying to hurt the hippo. The goal was to overload the animal's senses, confuse it, and interrupt its attack pattern before it could develop. The hippo, confronted with multiple stimuli from different directions, chose to remain in the water rather than charge. The Jornada quietly led the tourist away. No one ran. Running activates the chase instinct. This knowledge is not codified anywhere. There is no survival manual written in Jornada. The transmission is exclusively oral and practical. A Jornada boy doesn't get a theoretical lesson on hippos. He accompanies the adults. He observes how they behave near the water. He absorbs the stories told around the fire. When a Jornada elder dies without having fully passed on their knowledge, a part of this living library disappears forever. The Jornada day begins before the sun rises. The men leave their caves or temporary shelters when the sky is still dark, tinged only by the first glow on the eastern horizon. They don't wear watches. They don't need to. After thousands of generations living without technology, the human body has relearned to awaken at the biologically ideal moment. The morning hunt lasts for approximately 3 to 4 hours. The hunters move in near total silence. They remove their sandals to prevent their steps from making any sound. They communicate through a system of individualized whistles. Each Jornada man has a unique sound signature that his companions recognize instantly. They shoot at practically everything that appears. A bird perched on a low branch, a squirrel running between rocks, a lizard sunning itself. In an environment where the next meal is never guaranteed, every calorie counts. The meat obtained is prepared immediately. The hunters make fire by friction, rubbing dry sticks together until they reach ignition temperature. The animal is roasted whole over the flames, consumed right there and shared among all present. Around 10:30 in the morning, the heat becomes unbearable for intense physical activity. The hunters return to camp. The rest of the day is dedicated to lighter tasks, making new arrows, repairing damaged bows, preparing poison, smoking wild tobacco in pipes carved from soft stone. While the men rest, the Jornada women go out in groups to gather plant foods. They carry digging sticks, which they use to unearth starch-rich tubers. They collect fruit from the ironwood trees, whose dry pulp is extremely nutritious. Honey holds a special place in the Jornada diet. To find it, the hunters have developed an extraordinary symbiotic relationship with a bird called the honey guide. This small bird can locate wild beehives hidden in the hollows of trees, but it can't access the honey on its own. The solution is interspecies cooperation. The honey guide finds a hive and then actively seeks out humans to guide them to it. It flies toward the Jornada, emitting characteristic calls. The Jornada respond with their own whistles. The bird then flies from tree to tree until it reaches the hive. The Jornada do the heavy lifting. They climb the tree, use fire to drive away the bees and extract the honeycombs. As a reward, they leave behind wax and larvae. As the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, new dangers emerge. The hippos that spent the entire day submerged in the shallow waters of Lake Otero begin to stir. With the cool of the evening, they prepare to leave the water and begin their nightly journey. It is the most dangerous time of day. The Jornada know this rhythm as well as they know their own heartbeat. They know exactly which paths to avoid after dusk. They know that certain bends in the shoreline, certain narrow valleys, transform into deadly territory when the light fades. Jornada camps are purposefully mobile, designed to be set up and taken down in a matter of hours. When the game in an area begins to dwindle, the group moves. When a water source dries up, the group moves. When the proximity to hippos becomes too risky, the group simply moves. The Jornada philosophy dictates that no one should own more than they need to use immediately. This radical mobility is a survival strategy, refined over 50,000 years. In the last 50 years, the Jornada have lost 90% of their ancestral lands. The pressure comes from all directions. Dine ranchers expand their herds into areas that were once exclusive Jornada hunting grounds. The cattle compete directly with wild animals for grass. The water sources the Jornada have used for millennia are monopolized to water the livestock. Farmers from the Rio Grande Valley have arrived in growing numbers, transforming the nearby valley into the largest onion-producing hub in the entire Southwest. This intensive agriculture depends on irrigation, drawing from the same springs that feed the few permanent waterholes the Jornada rely on during the dry season. Tourism has brought money, but also profound distortions. Foreign visitors pay significant fees for the experience of hunting with the last hunter-gatherers in North America. Some groups have adapted. They stage hunting demonstrations for the cameras. In 2007, a government decision shocked international observers. The local government leased 2,500 square miles of land, which included traditional Jornada territory, to the Al Nahyan royal family of the United Arab Emirates. The contract provided for the creation of an exclusive private hunting reserve. The decision was made without consulting the local population. The international outcry forced the suspension of the agreement, but the precedent was set. Jornada lands could be treated as a commodity. The money that reaches the hands of individual Jornada people often causes more problems than it solves. Well-intentioned tourists hand dollar bills directly to the people they meet. With no tradition of a monetary economy, This money often finds only one available destination: alcohol. Deaths from acute alcohol poisoning have become tragically common. Each premature death of a Jornada adult takes with it knowledge that may not have been completely passed on. While the human world around them transforms, the hippos remain. The global hippo population is estimated to be between 115,000 and 130,000 individuals. The species is classified as vulnerable. Illegal hunting for meat and ivory continues to put pressure on their numbers. But in Lake Otero during the rainy season, the hippos still come. They still represent the exact same danger they did tens of thousands of years ago. The critical difference is that now the Jornada have dramatically less room to maneuver. Less territory means fewer options for alternative routes. Fewer options mean more forced encounters with animals they would rather avoid. More forced encounters mean more risky situations that their ancestral knowledge must manage with ever-shrinking margins of error. The dance of coexistence that worked for 50 millennia is beginning to stumble. The Jornada don't write books, they don't record videos, they don't leave survival manuals for future generations to consult. All their knowledge about hippos, where they sleep during the day, when they become most aggressive, what subtle signs on the water's surface reveal about submerged movements, how to react in a sudden encounter, is passed from father to son, mother to daughter, grandparents to grandchildren, exclusively through the spoken word and practical example. 50,000 years of accumulated wisdom, tested, refined, and distilled to its purest essence, condensed into gestures, glances, and stories told around campfires under the starry New Mexico sky. And perhaps this is exactly what the modern world most needs to relearn. Not the specific technique of avoiding hippo attacks, but the fundamental humility of recognizing that we exist within a larger system that we do not and cannot control. That nature owes us no safe passage, that surviving in a world full of forces more powerful than ourselves requires constant observation, inexhaustible patience, and a profound respect for limits we did not set. The Jornada did not conquer Lake Otero. They didn't build dams to control the water level. They didn't erect walls to keep the hippos out. They learned to read the territory with microscopic precision. They learned to move with the natural rhythms instead of against them. They learned to yield space when necessary and to accept that certain forces simply cannot and should not be controlled by human hands. This wisdom has no market price. It cannot be bought in bookstores or downloaded from the internet. It doesn't generate registrable patents or monetizable intellectual property. It doesn't appear on resumes from prestigious universities. It exists only, silently, fragilely, in the collective memory of fewer than 1,300 people scattered across a territory that shrinks with each passing year in northern New Mexico. Each elder who passes on without having completely transmitted what they know takes with them irreplaceable fragments of a library that took millennia to compile. The Jornada are fewer than 1,300 souls, living essentially as our common ancestors lived before agriculture. Cities, writing, and technology transformed the human experience into something unrecognizable. And every time one of them is gone forever without having passed on everything they knew, a section of that library disappears. The hippo will still be there. In the shallow waters of Lake Otero, emerging at dusk to graze on the grasses, returning at dawn to rest submerged, the land will continue to pull apart by a 1/16 of an inch each year, as it has for 65 million years. The sun will continue to punish the salt flat during the dry season. The rains will continue to arrive between March and May, transforming the cracked bed into a shallow mirror where flamingos dance and hippos dive. The question that remains silent and urgent is another. Who will still know how to live with it all? The Jornada know for now.